All right, so welcome to Life with Liz. I am so happy to be here with y'all via whatever the Zoom thing we're doing is. This is so cool, right? Okay, so what I want to do is introduce you to my guest today. I have with me via Zoom retired Brigadier General Donald Buldoc, who has served the U.S. Army for 33 years. General Buldoc is the recipient of 2 awards for valor, 5 Bronze Stars, and 2 Purple Hearts. He led one of the first groups in Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, riding on horseback to take control of the southern Afghan region from the Taliban. He was also one of the few survivors of both a helicopter crash and a 2,000-pound bomb that inadvertently targeted his position by friendly fire. So with that said, I want to welcome General Buldoc and his lovely wife, Sharon. How are y'all today?
Well,
You're doing great.
We're doing great. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Was that proper? Was that a good introduction?
Yes, you did very well.
I spilled the beans, though.
You put it all out there. But I'm also sitting next to a veteran, and my personal hero, my wife Sharon, who, while I was gone doing the things my country asked me to do, she was staying at home doing the real hard work of keeping our family together and raising our boys. So I'm always grateful for that.
Absolutely. Look at you blushing over there, Miss Sharon.
I know. I hate that. Don't get
the real hero, right?
The real hero. Yeah.
The real hero. Well, thank you both for joining me today. This is just an honor, really. And so I'll tell you what we're going to do, because, time is sometimes limited. There's so many places we could go with you, General and Sharon, right? But what I'd like to hone in on today, if that's okay with y'all, is to talk a little bit about your time in the military and relative to, I think, the emotional aspect of it. And we can overview this. Okay, you're looking at me like, what? What are you getting at here? But is sort of the emotional wear and tear that I think that life can have on folks. But I think also relative to you and y'all would be the emotional wear and tear that military life, whether it's the family, but also relative to you, General, the wear and tear that this work has on you emotionally, right? And so what I'd like to do is for you, General, if you can paint a picture. Should I say hi to Victor? Anyway, so is to paint a picture for us, if you could, of that, if that makes any sense, before we get going in a little more depth about where we're going about PTS and and such. So can you do that?
I can do that. I just want to recognize first, before I go into my own personal experience, that I recognize fully that the stress of life, the experiences of life, both good and traumatic, affect more than the veteran community, more than our service member community. And I don't want people to think that I speak without having a complete understanding of the full spectrum of tragic events that affect people throughout their lives, from their youngest days to the end of their life, right?
Yes.
I think that's, and there are all kinds of other occupations out there that bring with it the same kind of risks that develop post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury and pain management issues. But my area that I focus on is specifically post-traumatic stress, TBI, pain management issues that have to do specifically with deploying to combat environments or hostile environments or other environments that replicate that that
yes.
aren't identified that way, which is many areas in Africa, men and women in uniform and our civilian service members as well, experience the same type of environment that you would see in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, which we acknowledge as combat zones, in many areas in Africa, which we don't. And I think that is, that is worth noting, because when you don't give the benefits or code it as a combat zone, it's recorded differently in their, military medical history and in their, professional military files, and they don't get some of the same benefits. And this is something that I want to be able to affect and change as New Hampshire's next U.S. Senator. So I just want everyone to know that I am very well versed and understand the full spectrum of this, but I am going to focus today on military service members, veterans, and the effects of combat on those service members and their families.
Right. And that's exactly, and you jumped the gun on me, and that's okay, because where I wanted to go is to talk about you, and the military in particular, and then we move ahead because of what you just said, because what people experience, the tragedies, the horror, and on is very different, right, in our lives.
Right.
Absolutely very different. However, the impacts, I think, the impacts can be similar but different too, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's where perfect, because that's where I'd like to begin, is you painting that picture of you. And I appreciate what you did just that. But I was going to move us forward on that one too.
So really what I'd like to do is I'd really like to start with Sharon.
Okay.
And have her just quickly let you know the difference between the pre-9/11 Don Buldoc and the post-9/11 Don Buldoc after 10 tours in Afghanistan from 2001 to 2013. The fact that, the only years I was not in Afghanistan were 2003 and 4 and 2008. And so I want to make sure that she gives an insight into who I was before and how combat changed me and when she noticed it. Can we do that real quick?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yep.
I'll try to be real quick.
Hi, Sharon.
You're quicker than I am.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So yeah, the pre-9/11 or pre-deployment Don Buldoc, much more like happy-go-lucky. Things sort of rolled off of him. Much more. It's hard to put into words. But, more spontaneous. We planned things. We didn't have to plan things. It was, like, hey, hon, let's do this today. Great idea.
Crowds.
Well, I'm getting to that. Okay, no, you said you wanted me to talk.
I love this. I'm sorry. This is awesome. This is the real deal. Okay.
Exactly. This is
yeah.
And we're dressed COVID casual for today, so thank you. But anyway, we did like musicals and plays and things where there were lots of people and a lot of unknown things around, and it didn't bother him. I mean, he just went along like anybody else. So those are the things that I slowly saw change over time. In each deployment, it got more marked, like I could really tell. Hypervigilance. We'd go on vacation. He would like work the crowd. Like he wasn't standing next to me anymore. He was kind of, moving around the perimeter of where the people were standing, always looking over his shoulder, often would stand in front of me, and I was like, well, what is this? I mean, stand next to me, hold my hand, what are you doing? Why are you walking so fast? I didn't get it at first, the hypervigilance was bad. Driving in the car, every little movement around him would be distracting or alerting him. it got to the point where like I almost got PTS being in the car. I was like, oh my gosh, honey, let me drive. There was a point in time where I did all of the driving for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
All of it. Because it was harder for me to be the passenger, honestly. It was crazy. So, and then I would be driving and he'd be like, honey, watch out for, I'm like, honey, let me drive, you know? It's little things, but then when you stop and think about it, I was like, wow, there's so much more than this. It's everywhere in our life now. You know, we'd go into a restaurant and he would like guide me to the chair he wanted me to be in. And he wanted a good view of the door, you know.
Yes.
So it was all that stuff. I'm not short-tempered, such a negative thing to say. So I wish I had a better word, but it was like the reactionary time on things were quicker.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whereas it used to be, I could sit down and have a discussion and might get a reaction after a while, but his reaction was much quicker. And I'd say, can you just hear me out for a second? You know?
Yeah.
Things like that. I mean,
but Sharon, that makes perfect sense if you think about Don, or General, sorry, is that for so much time, that's the way you had to think, right?
Exactly.
So it sort of makes sense. It's just that private life versus military life, right?
Exactly.
And I think when you're not getting, when there's a lack of understanding and there's a stigma attached to it, and you're developing over time what I like to refer to now as a mental injury, not a mental illness injury, but a mental injury, like a physical injury, because it disables you in the same way. You can't effectively do your job. You're not an effective member professionally, or you're not optimal. I wouldn't want to say effective, but you're not optimal.
Yeah, because you were effective.
And either in your personal life or your professional life, and both are affected. And so, I think this is important. Sharon she has a great analogy for how we change. And she's explained, no, get into it now. I want you to
Sorry, Sharon.
Tell it quickly, and it's really appropriate for this discussion.
Okay.
Because she uses it to explain to her military spouses, friends.
Yes.
That my husband's changed, and Sharon has done, helped a lot of people out, not only with this analogy, but with the fact that I went for help, and then we both became advocates while I was a general officer. That's huge, right?
Yes.
And as a result, she's helped a lot of people out with this analogy. So go ahead.
Yeah,
because it's good.
Because I said
no, I want to hear this personally as a mom. You know this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of a mom of a son who is now deployed, right?
Absolutely.
So that I hardly hear anything from anymore. But anyway, go ahead.
That's part of it.
Okay.
That's part of it.
Let's chat, Sharon. Yeah.
We should, offline, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's hard to put your finger on just one thing, because it's a lot of little changes. And so the spouses that I talk to were like, well, how do you know? That's the biggest question. It's like everything else. Well, how do you know they have it? Or how do you know they're suffering? And so I came up with this analogy about pie, because I do like to bake. Some people call that stress baking, but whatever. I like to bake. And I love strawberry rhubarb pie. That's probably one of my favorite things to make and eat. And so I described it like when I met Don, he was like the bakery window strawberry rhubarb pie. Like, and it tasted as good as it looked. You know what I'm saying? It's that flaky crust with the big sugar granules, the wonderful fresh filling strawberry and the rhubarb. It was just perfect, and you had to have a second piece. The kind of what I'm talking about.
Right.
So,
are you sure we're still on the same track here?
No, yes, we are.
We are.
So over time, and this is the very abbreviated story because it can be long. I like to elaborate, but so you're still baking that pie, and it still looks the same. It's the same pie. It's still strawberry rhubarb pie, but there's something a little bit different. You're eating it, and you're like, can't really put my finger on it. Something's changed. Okay, and maybe you bought store-bought crust and you didn't make it, so it's still a good pie, still a good crust, but it's slightly off, right? And then the next time you have the pie, maybe you didn't have fresh strawberries. So you bought that canned preserved strawberries. Yeah, you know, they're not as good. They're never as good. It's kind of gooey and yeah, but it's still strawberry rhubarb pie, right? And it's still good. But I don't think I'm going to have a second piece. You know, it's not that good. But to everybody else, if I brought this to a potluck, people are like, yep, that's strawberry rhubarb pie. You know, so you see the point I'm getting at. It's like small changes over time. You adapt your life to accept the small change, and you still identify that thing as what it was to start with. Like, this is still Don. This is still Don Buldoc, the guy I met, fell in love with, and married, right? But there's just something not quite the same, and I'm not sure why or what, you know. It gets to the point where now your pie is all artificial and just blech. And you know what? I don't even want a bite of that, right? So that's when you kind of have to go, all right, where did it change? What point did I get to where I said, okay, Don, you need to go get some help? What was it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened. It was like that pie was unrecognizable to me. And that's when I knew I lost him. I want that Don Buldoc that I met. I want that guy back, you know, so.
Or at least as much of him back as possible.
I don't think you ever get 100%.
People change, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
You know, I mean, we don't want to come across as, you know, you get married and you know, in 1989.
You're the same person.
You're the same person in 2020. That's not the point.
Right.
When you have a mental injury, when you have post-traumatic stress and you have TBI and your brain isn't working in much the same way as a broken ankle, you got to go to the doctor and you got to get some help. And that's the piece that's missing. We want in our society the same understanding for post-traumatic stress and TBI that you have for a broken ankle. And we should be open to people going and getting the care they need. Yeah. So when she started talking to me about how much I've changed from 2001 to 7 with a series of deployments in there, the military wasn't going to accept that, right? I mean, not at all in 2007. They started to get on board in 2010, and now they have plenty of programs, and the leadership talks about it, which is great, but their approach is broken. So people aren't getting the help they need for the mental injury that they have so that they can become a better version of themselves, right? Because you're negatively affected by a number of things in your life, but none more than the experience in combat. And when you have that over and over and over again, and in my mind, I felt that I was a burden to my family, that I was more comfortable deploying to combat than I was staying at home. And so I looked for every opportunity to be gone, every opportunity to stay at work and work longer, right? That doesn't mean I was working better. That doesn't mean the quality of my work was any better. It just meant that I was trying to avoid those things that made me uncomfortable and that I thought were a burden to my family. And that's not the right way to think. So you need to go to the doctor, and you need to sit down with the doctor, and you need to get diagnosed properly, and you need to be put in a therapy program. Oh, by the way, which I did for 2 years from 2013 to 15 and never missed a day of work, never missed a heartbeat. Nobody even knew I was getting the therapy training. But Sharon started seeing a marketable difference in my attitude. And oh, by the way, I had guys that worked for me when I was a battalion commander and worked for me in the years that I was suffering with post-traumatic stress and the effects of TBI and the pain from pain management. You know, I had to have my hips replaced, and I wasn't getting that done. I had to have 3 discs in my neck replaced. I wasn't getting that done. There were times I couldn't even use my left arm, and I kept that hidden. And, you know, you're just miserable, right? And why? Because if you miss something, if you say, I can't do that right now, I got to do this, then they're going to push you aside.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what we got to stop doing. That's what we have to stop doing. We have to start, and we can do it without cutting into the mission, because from 2015 to 2017, I proved that inside my, division command, inside my division command of 2,000 people in 28 countries, that you can put a program together without it negatively affecting your mission by taking care of the people and their families. Mission takes care of itself. And oh, by the way, we have less alcohol problems, we have less drug problems, we have less domestic violence issues, we have better work environment and climate, people are feeling healthy, their marriages are healthy, and we got all kinds of positive feedback. And what we tried to do was we tried to let the military know at the higher levels, and they weren't interested. They were more interested in me keeping my mouth shut and staying under the radar. Otherwise, it was going to not bode well for me. And I don't know what they mean. What's not going to bode well for me? Well, obviously, I knew what it meant. It meant, continued service and, and additional promotions. But as a general, it didn't matter to me. What mattered to me was the health and welfare of the men and women that I'm responsible for. And the idea that as a general, if I can't take care of myself, I have no business taking care of your son.
That's right.
Or daughter.
Right.
Right? Your mom, your dad, anybody. And we got to get this right. And we're not getting it right. And we can see it in the number of disciplinary problems that we have in the military. We can see it in the number of suicides we're having in the military. And then we can see how not taking care of it there translates into huge problems when they become veterans. Inside that broken system, hey, it doesn't get any better, right? There's no bridge to cross. It's a gap between service life and civilian life. And, unless you have a bridge, you're going to fall in the gap and you're going to get lost. And guess what happens? Tragic things happen. And so this is about understanding. This is about destigmatizing. This is about knowing that you can have post-traumatic stress. You can have traumatic brain injury, and you can be highly functioning. I was highly functioning before I even got help for it. I was much better. I had soldiers that worked for me when I was a battalion commander and a brigade level commander, and they saw me in that environment, and I was exhibiting the same kind of behavior that Sharon was discussing. Then they came to work for me when I was a general between 2015 and 2017, and they were like, wow, you're the same person, no doubt about it, but your approach is so much better. It's unbelievable, right? And instead of going high and right, meaning, the flashpoint from me just sitting here to anger was, like that. It was like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's sit back. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then opening it up to others was hugely, hugely important. And when we started seeing over a 26-month period how that affected the unit in such a positive way, it was something that we should have sustained and we should have grown, because it didn't cost any more money and it didn't degrade the mission, right? But it made me much better at home. It made me much better at work, and so that's what we owe our people. That's what we owe you. That's what the American people owe our service members when we tell them to go to war for 18 years. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you're talking about this, I'm just going, I tend to see things sometimes maybe a little too black and white, right? Mm-hmm. Good versus bad. I mean, versus, yeah. And so to me, this is common sense, because it is the right thing, this is me talking, to do, because for our military while they are serving, right? I mean, it is the right thing to do for them, their families, and our country, right? It's just so right, because they will move on ahead in life, right? And they want to have some sense of normalcy of life after the military. Well, if we have not provided them with what they need all the way around, especially emotionally and mentally, shame on us.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's right.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I've noticed, right? So I'm the only general officer that's ever come out publicly on active duty and said, I have post-traumatic stress, I have traumatic brain injury, I had pain management issues, this is how I dealt with it. I'm going to support you 100%. And I am not, you're not going to be taken off your team. You're not going to be taken out of your job. You're not going to have your security clearance affected in any way. You're going to be able to continue to do your job. I'm going to send you to Launchstool Regional Medical Center. You're going to get with Nurse McNary, and she's going to do a 3-day assessment of you. And you're going to bring your wife with you, because that's a good idea. And oh, by the way, we have free apartments for you to stay in, so you don't even have to worry about anything costing you anything. And you're going to get assessed for 3 days. Your medical records are going to be updated. You're going to be analyzed to figure out exactly what we need to do with you. And then we're going to put you on a very flexible program so that you can get better. And unbelievable, right? I mean, I did counseling with my therapist at Launchstool Regional Medical Center in the most remote areas in Niger country in Africa. And in some of those places in Niger, Africa, in the middle of nowhere, you're not at the edge of the world, but you can see it from there, right? I mean, that's how remote it is. And I'm talking like I'm talking to you on Skype with my therapist. Boom, boom, boom. We get her done. I'm still doing my job. He's doing his job. I'm benefiting from it. And then when I get back to my headquarters and I have another appointment, Sharon and I drive to the appointment. She sits in it with me. She tells him the ground truth, because I'm liable not to do that, because that's what our service members do. They kind of throw, they're not, because you're a little embarrassed by your behavior once it's pointed out to you, and once you reflect on it, you're like, Jesus, just like, wow.
Yeah, but that's natural, right? I mean,
yes, of course.
That's a human.
But you got to understand that it's
yes,
natural.
Yes.
And so some of the things that I would probably be hesitant to say, Sharon was like, okay.
I'm like, wait a second.
And then
you spilled the beans,
truth,
right?
Yes, because the doctor needs to really know. And plus,
it's
the way you see yourself is
completely
completely different from the way other people see you, right?
That's right.
And so you have to, you have to work this out together. And we emphasize that. And we got people, the surgeries that you needed, and shoulder, knee, hip, back, whatever it was. Hey, listen, when you don't have pain, you are a much different person.
You bet.
We also got people sleep tested, because sleep apnea is a huge problem in the military because of the style of life you make. It interferes with your sleep pattern. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get enough sleep, if you don't get good sleep, quality sleep, the sleep that, at least the sleep that you're afforded, we get it in the military. I know that I may have to be up for 24 hours. I know that I may have to be up for 20 hours. I get all that, and we'll put that work in. But at the same time, as a leader, I know I got a group of soldiers over here that worked for 48 hours, right? Because of what was going on. I got to make sure that I take care of them. And that's one of the things we're not doing, right? I remember when I went to my first general officer course, they're pitching this whole idea about getting 7 hours of sleep. Well, my boss told me when I came back to my unit and I was telling him about the course, he goes, hey, if you get 7 hours of sleep, you let me know, because I got some more work for you
to do.
Right?
Oh.
Because you're not buying into this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 7 hours. No one gets 7 hours of sleep. And in the military, it's a badge of honor for you to walk around with the guy that gets the least amount of sleep, because he must be working really hard.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And the quality of work when you're sleep deprived is terrible, right?
Sure.
And we all know that through studies. We all know it through observations. We all know it through the output. The final product you get. My goodness, what was this guy drunk when he did this? No, he didn't have enough sleep. And when you don't get 5 hours of sleep, your brain operates as if it has 0.1% alcohol in your system, which means you're legally intoxicated. So there's so many years and months that I was on active duty that I was, shit-faced at work, and I hadn't had a drop, right? because I was sleep deprived, right?
Yep.
And it's typical. And so, and you pay a price at the end of the day, because in special operations, we train a guy, we train him, they go through extensive training, right? And for 15 years, when they go through a team and they go through all this stuff, we are going to run them hard, physically and mentally. And then we want another 15 years out of them. But if we break them, mentally and physically and spiritually, and we don't take care of that through the 15 years that we're working them hard, we're not going to get the output on the other end that we want. We want a good 30 years out of you, right? At least I do. And that requires an investment. You know, they do it in sports, right? They invest in you big time in sports, right? And they give you the best of equipment. It wasn't until after 9/11 that the military decided, you know what, this wool and all this, this load-bearing equipment and all this equipment that we have that's, Vietnam vintage, it's probably not good, because we got soldiers out there operating like athletes. And they need the best stuff to keep them warm, the best stuff to keep them dry, the best stuff for them to be able to maneuver, to operate in cold and hot. And when it gets cold, and then, in the same day it's hot. I remember being in Afghanistan, Kuwait, Iraq, and it's, 120 degrees during the day, and it drops to 99 degrees at night, and you're shivering. You're freezing. And I got a sweatshirt on and sweatpants on and a woolly hat on because I'm cold at 99 degrees, right?
Oh, my crazy. Gosh, it is crazy. That in itself could create.
Right. And then, you ask your son when he comes back, Kuwait is hotter than the hinges of hell.
Yeah.
It's also humid because the humidity that comes off the Gulf is, oh my goodness, it's treacherous. And so you got this high heat and you got this humidity and you're trying to work. Heck, it's hard. Environmental conditions really affect people as well. And we have to be aware of that. The air they breathe, the dirty ground they sit on, the open sewers, the burning of plastic, all this stuff. And you'd think we would know this by now.
You would think, know it, right?
History of warfare, but we don't. And then we always have to go, we got to do a study. Yeah. And by the way, the study is going to take 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. And then, half the population that is affected by it is going to be gone by then.
Right, right.
You have a few people left, and then they're going to be into another, that generation of warriors are going to be moving on to something else. We're going to start all over again. Like it's a surprise to us, right? That getting hit in the head hard is going to leave a mark. It's going to damage the brain. We need to make sure we take care of that. Seeing people die.
Yes.
Rotation after rotation after rotation. Holding babies in your hand that have burned to death. Holding babies in your hands that are in their last breath. Holding babies in your hands that are starving. This has an effect, and until you've experienced that, you have no way or no reason to be judging others, right? And you should be making sure that you're taking care of people that are in those kind of environments, that are willing to go and serve, so that you can have all these great freedoms here and do these things that you want to do because someone's out there standing a post, right? And that's hugely important.
Absolutely. Oh, okay. You too have painted for me and probably for I would hope for our viewers, quite the picture, right? I mean, I don't know how you'd miss that one, so, and I appreciate that a lot. I can't imagine going through that, both of you. Okay, so I'm almost speechless because I anyway, and that's happens sometimes even for me. But so what is it that y'all, General, and you both are doing these days and have been since you've moved on from the military to try to help, whether it's, I don't know, inside the military or for our veterans? Because I know that you continue to provide, providing awareness, but also directly helping. What have you been doing since? And how do you feel it's been going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can talk about this. You've been with me for it.
Yeah. No, we do a lot of things. We sit on several veteran boards to make decisions about.
We volunteer.
Yeah, we do.
Take it down.
You're not paid the big bucks, right?
No.
No way.
And we wouldn't for veteran things. We decided that would never be a money making source for us.
No, I was teasing you, by the way. But yeah.
I know.
No, it's because a lot of people do move on to veteran organizations for a salary and whatever, but that's not the intent we had. We just wanted to spread the word mostly. What we started while we were still on active duty, trying to get the word out. We wanted to, seeing how difficult the transition was for us from military to civilian life because of what Don described as, that bridge not being there and people fall in the gap or off the cliff or whatever. We felt that we needed to provide information and support for others like us who were doing the same and felt like us. We were lost. We really go from a community that provides 100% of everything for you to a community in the civilian world where you're a new person and you don't know your way around. Like I'm talking anything, resources, I had to find out how to register my car in the town I lived in. I mean, that's
sure.
All of that is done in one location. If you're on a military base, it's easy. Everything's right there. So you live that kind of lifestyle for 30 plus years. Then you come out into, the civilian world. It's a real eye opener. And it's like, oh, who can I call to ask for help? There's no Army Community Services guy.
Sure.
Call and say, hey, where do I go do this? Or, the medical system was difficult to navigate. That was all done for us all the time, right on the military installation. I never had to think about a provider or an insurance policy or, that's all new to us.
You come to New England and there's really no military installation that you can go to.
We didn't retire in Fayetteville, North Carolina,
right. I mean,
Texas, where there's a huge military,
nor did we want to, right?
No,
we wanted to come back to New Hampshire.
Right.
And, as Sharon says, getting involved, helping veterans in New Hampshire, New England, across the country. We've talked at a lot of conferences. We've helped with fundraising. My assistance with fundraising, very proud of, over $2 million raising money for veteran organizations that we have supported. We're very active in the service dog area. I have a service dog. In large part, I took the dog because, one, I qualified for it and I thought it would be, very helpful. And Victor is, but more importantly, I wanted to be able to set an example. And demonstrate to others that having a service dog is a good thing if you qualify for it, and it should be an option for you. And if you are offered that and it is a reality for you, then go ahead and take it. And if I can lead by example that way, I will. Hey, does having a service dog hurt me sometimes? Yeah, it does. I'm running for Senate. I've been attacked by Republicans for having a service dog. Right? Oh, he's not, fit for duty as a United States Senator. And anyone that talks to me for a few minutes realizes that's really not true and it's a bunch of garbage. But that's my own party, right? Haven't been attacked by the Democrats yet, but I've been attacked by the Republicans. And I'm sure it's coming. But the whole thing is that by setting these examples, by showing others, by getting out there, by the virtue of the fact that I am a general, that gives people strength to go, you know what? If the general can do it, I can do it, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of effect that we want to have.
Yep.
And then, of course, I'm teaching as an associate professor at New England College. I love that. I'm thankful that I still have my job. We just transitioned from the classroom to Zoom. So I do my classes. And
General, what is it that you, sorry to interrupt, what is it that you teach? What is it you teach there?
During one semester, I'll teach a class on Africa, and another semester, I'll teach it on Afghanistan, which is what I'm doing this semester. And then I teach a leadership course in both semesters.
And
I am grateful to, President Perkins and Wayne Lesperance for giving me the opportunity to teach, to stay connected with the younger generation, whom I think have a tremendous amount of capability and capacity, and we need to invest in them, and we need to encourage them, and we got to do a lot of things to not take care of them, but give them the opportunities that they need to be successful. We've had enough hand-holding here. Now it's time to challenge them, and they'll rise to the challenge, because I commanded them in combat, and I have given some of them our highest honors, which is honoring them for giving their life to the service of their country. I've seen what they can do. I know what they can do, and I'm teaching them now, and it's like being back with troops. So it's very refreshing for me and very motivating for me. And I think I have something to offer, right?
So this is ROTC classes?
No, this is New England College doesn't have an ROTC program.
Oh, they don't. Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm just, I'm an associate professor like everybody else, and that's all I care to be. I have no aspirations other than teaching in the classroom. I don't want an administrative job. I don't want to rise in the ranks of, professorship, blah, blah, blah. Yep. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to have the opportunity to teach, and I'm grateful to have that.
Yeah, you must be quite the inspiration. I can only imagine. Okay, I've got to move us on here, and which will be a natural progression, I think. So, as the world knows, we're in the midst I call it an apocalypse. I don't think people appreciate it, but because I used to watch Walking Dead all the time, and sorry, but now things are not destroyed out there. Like, if y'all have ever watched that, but if you walk outside, it feels kind of weird these days, doesn't it? I mean, it really does. So, but the thing is with COVID-19 and just everything, without getting into the details, I'm not going to, I personally think that people are being emotionally impacted by this. Mm-hmm. And we are going to see this. We are going to see this, especially the longer this goes on, right? I mean, people losing their jobs, people, I'm not even going to get into it, but to me, it makes sense that there is going to be, if there isn't already, and I think we're hearing bits and pieces about it, an emotional impact to people. And again, the longer it goes on, the longer that impact is going to affect people, in my opinion, just like with the military, right? Mm-hmm. The longer, right, you're exposed, right? So I guess what I would ask you all is, what would you say to people today who are really struggling, and some more than others, right? I mean, everybody has their own struggles in life, but in particular right now, and so it's worse than for others. But having been through not the same at all, you can't even compare the challenges and the difficulties and the trauma. General, but both of you, what is it you would say to people today to help inspire them, to help them get their minds, their heads around this maybe a little bit better?
Right. So first thing we can do is compare it. Right.
No, I'm not, and I wasn't.
No, yeah. I know you weren't doing it. That's because you made that clear.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it's a good point. We can't compare it. And
right.
People are going to deal with it differently.
Yes.
And we have to understand that. But the thing that we have to do, our leaders need to start thinking about the day after COVID virus, right? And they need to start putting things in place so that already now, we're too late now. Right? We should have been doing this before. And I talked about this before on another thing. When I was a crisis management, I dealt with a lot of crisis management in the military, Ebola, violent extremist organizations, conflict resolutions, you name it. I did it. Boom. Highest levels of our government. So, this is something where, I put in place, hey, we have what's going on right now, and we have a group of people dealing with that. We have what led us there, and we have a group of people leading with that, policing up the battlefield, so to speak.
Yes.
Decisions that are being made today in time and space, and then feeding them in to not only the current situation, but also a group of people thinking about the future. And those things are going to have to be in place in order to help people. And we just have to understand that we're all in this together, that we have to support each other, that we have to listen to our leaders, that we have to be careful also of over control and unnecessary control, and people taking advantage of us during a crisis. And I think our Congress, in the way they're acting, is creating a lot of problems for people, right? They are fighting over political stuff when they should be passing and providing relief to people that are affected not only by the COVID virus, but also the economic impact. We're at a point right now in many places in this country where the economic crisis is more of a concern than COVID-19 virus. Now, there are some places in this country where the opposite is true, but at some point in time, it's going to leapfrog, and we're going to be in this position to where the economy can't be ruined by a pandemic. We can't allow that to happen. So, our leaders need to be thinking about how we're going to care for people that say, you know what, I lost my job. My father died of COVID-19. And there's people out there. I got family members that were sick. My husband just lost their job. There's two of us. We don't have a job. What are we going to do? And the pressures that come with that, so we don't lose people from suicide.
Yes.
Have a rise in broken homes. And we got to start thinking about that, because the psychology of war, the psychology of a crisis is huge.
Yes.
And just because the crisis ends doesn't mean we go, okay, there we go. And,
right.
Oh, and you're a wimp, get over it, right? No, that's not the case at all. We've been there, we've done that. We know we have responsibilities, and these are the things that should be thought of. These are the things we should be hearing from some of our leadership, definitely members of Congress. Definitely I'm thinking about it, and I'm feeding it into the narrative on social media and when I have my town hall meetings and so on and so forth, that, hey, it's about that. And then do things during the day that, allow you some sort of normalcy. Get out and get some vitamin D. You can do this safely, right? And controls on allowing people not to be able to get out and to get exercise and stuff like that, it's going to hurt us in the long run, right? It's going to make it worse. And you can do it. I know you can do it. The American psyche is the strongest in the world. We are the most resilient. We've proved it time and time again. And the COVID-19 virus, yeah, it's bad. People are dying. God bless them. I say a prayer every day. But think about our history. Think about the tough times that we've been through, how we've persevered because of our determination, our self-reliance, our don't tread on me, and use that as your strength, right, to motivate you. Because, that's what I do. It's, I get out with my grandchildren. We walk the dogs. We're doing a lot more dog walking than we normally do now, which is good, And when you're like, geez, I can't, this is crazy in here. Get out, go for it.
Yeah.
And then catch up on some of the stuff that you like to watch, right?
Sure.
I've been wanting to watch the series, Dexter for years, right? And I just finished 8 seasons of it, right? So I checked that blog. Start doing those kind of things, but just keep yourself motivated and know that this will come to an end, and that I'm just praying that our leaders in Congress are thinking about the day after, because you got to start putting that stuff in place now. You want to say something?
I'd like to just add, as a military spouse, and when we knew that another unit had deployed, it was just nice to pick up a phone and check in with that spouse and say, how you doing?
Yes.
There's nothing like hearing a voice, a passionate voice on the other end of a phone. I know we're all text people now, but there's a lot of elderly people stuck in nursing homes, and a letter, a card, a
Yes.
FaceTime call to them is huge right now, because for that generation, a lot of that is very mental, and they look forward to seeing their family members. And when that's not available to them, that has a huge impact on their mental capacity.
3 things,
you know.
socialization, diet, and exercise. Those 3 things are what keep our elderly population healthy. And during a crisis now, it'll keep you healthy too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I was going to say, just listening to what y'all are, you know, this isn't only for them, whoever them is, right? I mean, the elderly.
For you
this
too.
Absolutely. When you reach out to people, right? How does that make you feel? Right. So I was trying to tell, and I'm not going to go on here because this is y'all, but so my son, right, who is stuck, you know, in Kuwait, hasn't been able to move because of all this, right? And he's not alone. He's not alone. And that's tough. Yes. And you, General, have to, I'm sure, understand that more than anything, how difficult that is, right? And so I'm trying to be the mom to, you know, to incentivize, to, you know, whatever. And so I said, reach out to people, because you can do this, right? So you have a 93-year-old great aunt. You've got a second cousin who, you know, blah, and on and on. Reach out to these people, and you will feel better.
Absolutely.
Yes, they will too, but so will you. And so and we can do this. I mean, at a minimum, right? I mean, even if we are stuck inside at 93 years old, or like my cousin who is, I won't even get into it. You can do this. You can do this. You can reach out beyond yourself, right?
Yeah.
And what does that do?
Our youngest boy is in Indiana. He didn't come home because it happened, and then COVID shut everything down, and he chose to stay in his apartment off campus. He's the only one. There's 8 of us living in our home. He's the only one not with us. And some days I think it's makes me more sad than it makes him.
Yes.
So to your point, I text or call him like every 3 days, and I said, I know that you're not a texter, but I need this. I need to, you know, proof of life, Matt, because I just need to know you're okay. So humor your mother.
Yeah.
Just text me a short little, I'm good, Mom. What I mean? Don't ignore my text like you usually do. You know,
I am not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you on this one.
You get it, right? So,
because no, I didn't know y'all. I have one in Indiana as well, by the way,
okay.
who's in his apartment with his roommate because he chose not to come home, right?
Okay.
So same. So I don't hear from him.
You know, you're.
Anyway, off topic here. So okay, so this has been awesome. All right, so, and to make the picture even bigger, and we'll end it with this. All righty, I don't know where we are, but yeah, we're getting there. So,
what happened to us?
Are y'all there?
We are. What happened?
I don't know.
Nothing. No, we're good.
Yes.
Hello?
You can see us?
I can see you.
Okay, good.
Oh, good. We can't see you.
Okay, sorry. That may as well be okay. I don't know.
You can just say, don't touch anything, Sharon. I think I made you disappear. I'm sorry.
Okay. So bigger picture even. So we talked military, right? We talked COVID, but we'll leave at a very end this in a very positive way for anybody that is dealing, and we all do deal with tragedy and challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It is part of life. It is the ups and the downs. And some more than others, and some way more than others. But we all got it. And we always think the grass is always greener. But you know what? Everybody has it. So I guess because I value so much what you both have done for our country, and in a really intense way. Let's put it that way. And so I think y'all are perfect to talk to people at the end here and say, in a little, I'm not going to say 10 words or less, but what would you say to people, young, middle-aged, old, who are dealing with challenges. How, what would you say the best way you can cope and deal would be? And I know that's a huge philosophical question, but I guess I think it's a huge one. I know, but it's a great way, I think, and I want to hear what y'all have to say. How would you answer that? And what would you say to folks?
So I guess I'm just going to kind of parrot what you said. When you think, because this always helped me when Don went away, or after the crash and I didn't hear from him, or whatever the situation was, I just stop and think, these are all the things I'm grateful for. I'm going to try not to get emotional, because I usually do, but it's hard for me to express this, because you just dig really deep down inside and you say, these are all the things that I'm blessed with. These are the things I'm grateful for. And that always made everything easier for me. You know, it could be worse. That's such a cliche, but it could be worse. And there are so many more people struggling and suffering more than me. And that just always helped me get to the other side of whatever I was struggling with. I was always blessed to have my children with me. You know, so dad's not around, but look, I've got these 3 beautiful boys. You know, just look for some little silver lining or light at the end of the tunnel, whatever the expression is, that, you know, find something beautiful around you. There's tons. If you stop and look around, there's tons of wonderful things around you. So I would say that's the one thing you focus on, and always take day to day. Don't look at a year from now or even months from now. It's too big a picture to break down. You just get through the day. Wake up and go, you know what? I got through yesterday. I got this, you know? I think if you take it in small pieces, it's easier to digest. So
well said. All right, Mr. Don,
I
General.
Think
your turn.
She summed it right up, you know, and I always go back to my faith. I always go back to that, and I think of, you know, keep the faith, fight the good fight, never give up, keep moving forward. Always try and look at the bright side of things, as Sharon said. And there's always somebody that is more worse off than you are, and you know, try and find a way to be able to, you know, to help. Sharon and I felt that we weren't doing enough. You know, I'm used to being on the tip of the spear of everything, and I'm sitting in Stratham, New Hampshire, and I'm going, geez, you know, nobody's calling me. Nobody's calling me to ask me for my advice, right? And I'm not that kind of person. I want to get out there and help. So Sharon and I, you know, put our name on a list to be able to help deliver meals and Meals on Wheels, and we're doing it in Manchester. We went for our orientation last Friday, and we did a route with with an experienced guy. The route that we're going to do as soon as our background check clears, which should be pretty soon, because they got to do background checks on you. And so that is something that I am, you know, feeling very good about, because now I know every Friday, boom, from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, I'm going to be out in Manchester delivering meals to people. And when we met these people last Friday, we were so moved, you know, and we were so affected by the fact that, you know, they are living every day, day to day, and they count on people to help them. And so to me, I mean, that's just, you know, that just fills my soul, fills my heart with goodness.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that's my response. So you just got to find that, you got to find that thing, right?
And doing for others, you know, in some way, right? Or checking in with others, as we talked about. There's just, it's countless. There are countless ways, I think. But you got to make yourself do it, don't you?
Right.
Hey, you too. I'm telling you, this has been my pleasure and honor once again. I appreciate y'all joining me today. And I wish you both all the best going forward. And I want to thank our viewers for joining us today. And with that said, I want to also say, if you have any desire to hear more of me on Life with Liz, I am in Nashua on WSMN 1590, Mondays and Wednesdays, 11:05 to noon. And if you don't, guess what? I'll see you next time here on Bedford TV. And until then, for y'all and all, God bless you. God bless our troops, and God bless America. Take care.
Absolutely. God bless everybody. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
God bless.
Bye, Liz.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.